lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And today on the show, we are discussing Obsession, which was released May 15th, 2026, exclusively in theaters. Now, Rowan, here on Now Slaying, this one has been a particularly long time coming, as I first saw Obsession the day after it had its world premiere at last year's Toronto International Film Festival. And if I recall correctly, when I returned from the festival and, hopped on the main show, I think we were covering Nope. I believe I sung its praises on the pod and basically said I couldn't wait to cover it on Now Slaying whenever it eventually got some distribution. But even before that, if I think back, I think we both discussed Curry Barker's other feature-length work, Milk and Cereal.
Yeah.
In the, the what you've been consuming sections, not at the same time or the same episode or anything, but I think I came to it really early from some bloody disgusting articles, and then eventually you checked it out as well. So I feel like what I'm getting at is that we've both been following Curry Barker's career closely for the past couple of years. He obviously has some talent and understands horror. So with that in mind, were you looking forward to seeing Obsession for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was like one of two of the most excited I was this year for films, maybe in a while.
Big boots to fill.
But I was just so excited for this. Like you said, huge Curry Barker fan. Obviously with his Bad Idea kind of comedy duo.
The comedy troupe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've just been a huge fan of those forever, and always thought even that stuff was produced very high quality. It was pretty high concept, I thought.
Yeah, a lot of those I was less familiar with, but obviously they've been making the rounds now over the past weekend or so.
Yeah.
And I've heard him talk about how even though they were largely TikToks and, shorts, he very much wanted it to still have some sort of budget or some sort of artistry behind it.
Yeah.
Even if a lot of them boil down to just a stupid joke of, what if you negative tip, or, what if your best friend rushes over and constantly tells you that he's coming, and, just the kind of the absurdity and almost just the inherent jokes behind it all, that it was, they're fun. I don't know if they're the caliber of Milk and Cereal or Obsession, but I get where he got to start.
Yeah, I liked it. I always thought of them kind of as the white Key and Peele, just
okay.
For I enjoy Key and Peele stuff. I don't think either of them are Chappelle level type stuff, but
no.
But I think I thought they were pretty good. But yeah, so once I kind of had heard that someone picked up this to be in the theater, because like you said, we watched kind of his first kind of free feature there on YouTube, and highly impressed by it. It was everything I would expect from them. I was kind of interested in this just kind of being his vision there, and what with some money he could do. And I was just really, really excited. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to check it out again. Obviously, at the Toronto International Film Festival, this was one of my top 5 anticipated movies of the festival. And then I think at the end, it wound up somewhere in my top 5 as well. So it was one of those that going into the festival, I couldn't wait to check out. Was lucky enough to check it out with a full cast and, not crew wholly, but I guess Curry was there and his producers were there, that sort of thing, in attendance. And I mean, obviously it did gangbusters at the festival. I think it sold the very next day. It was really good in the theater for audience reaction and whatnot. So it was just the sort of movie that I couldn't wait for us to discuss on the show, and then also see if it actually found a larger audience outside of the festival circuit, because this is one that it could have been released in theaters with absolutely no marketing and no fanfare, and it did, $2 to $3 million and just kind of got phased out, or they could have invested heavily in it like they did, and it winds up making its money back, hopefully. At the time, I mean, it's more than made its production budget back, but, all the marketing and how much they spent on acquiring it and whatnot, I don't know if all those numbers are out there, but I think it's going to be a very successful little horror movie. So yeah, specifically for the show's purposes, I couldn't wait to discuss it and also rewatch it, because it's been, 8 or 9 months probably since I've last seen it, and then there was talk about some things being edited out or trimmed down. So yeah, I just couldn't wait to see the whole theatrical cut and discuss it on the show. So is this new horror hit everything we've wished for? Well, before we get into that, let's throw it on over to the trailer.
Obsession.
I made a wish. I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the world.
I love you so much. It's weird how you two are dating all of a sudden.
I would like to cancel a wish.
We don't really do that.
Obsession. Rated R. Only in theaters May 15th with special engagements in Dolby.
Obsession was written and directed by Curry Barker, and the story is as follows. After making a wish to capture his crush's heart, a hopeless romantic finds himself getting exactly what he asked for. Now, here on Now Slang, we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free up front before getting into the more in-depth, spoiler-filled discussion. So, Rowan, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on Obsession?
So I'm going to start off by what I think might be a little bit of a slight, but one of the highest compliments you can get is the entire time watching this, I forgot this was a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah, I mean, probably produced outside of the Blumhouse world, more or less, but yeah.
I mean, I know how they did it. It's called money, but I don't know how Blumhouse tripped into this or whatnot. But I mean, the quality of this is Neon, A24, we're in that kind of air, I think, with this.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, there was a bidding war, and obviously Neon and A24 were both interested in this, but for whatever reason, it won out with Focus Features in the end, with obviously some Blumhouse involvement.
Yeah, I like to just imagine Curry Barker like me just, holding that flag for Blumhouse. He was like, let's try to turn the ship around.
Let's go.
Yeah, night swim, just big night swim guy.
Yeah, he could be. Who knows?
Well, and you know what? I have seen a couple interviews with him. I can't think. I watched one where they just interviewed him in the middle of a street, and there's some connections there. It does kind of make sense because I know he said one of his all-time favorite horror movies is the Invisible Man remake.
Yeah, from 2020.
Yeah,
with Elizabeth Moss. I saw that clip as well, and I kind of do agree with him that it's underrated. I will say. I don't know if it's one of the best horror movies ever, but I remember seeing that in theaters right before it was full lockdown for the pandemic, and I thought it was scary as all hell at the time.
Yeah, and that's going to roll into a lot of what I have to talk about this, is that I just think it's interesting, more so for the listeners, not for me, because I just start feeling really old, but seeing the influences of these young directors, and I'm like, oh, you can tell they love this movie, and then I'm like, man, that movie only came out a couple years ago, and then I'm like, oh, I guess that was 10 years ago or something.
Yeah,
I guess it all makes sense now. But it's just, seeing these young directors come up wearing kind of their influences on their sleeve, which I think this does, not just with Curry Barker, but with Inde Navarrette. Is it Navarrette? Navarrette?
God, now with you saying her name, I got it all mixed up. Inde, God, what have you done to me?
What have we done?
Right?
Oh,
it's Navarrette.
Navarrette,
I believe it's definitely an exotic Q at the end, in French.
Yeah.
I think it's Inde Navarrette. I think so.
Yeah, Inde Navarrette, and it's funny because I saw some stuff with her and where she was pulling stuff from, which I was like, okay, literally I was tracking it as watching it, that I was like, oh, there's no way this isn't what she was watching or studying from, and it seemed like I was on point with all of it. But I'm just gonna say, awesome time in the theater.
Okay, was it a big crowd or?
So I don't even think you know this yet because you've been off the internet. So I just got out of it. I saw it twice.
Oh.
I saw it yesterday
okay.
and today.
Oh, I didn't track that. I mean, I am a serial letterboxed creeper and logger. I just absolutely love the app, but I didn't notice that. Okay.
So I went by myself in a evening showing last night, and afterwards, when we get into it, there was a crowd, and then I got out and I went today with Exilia. Exilia wanted to see it. So I was like, yeah, I'll go see it again. So I've seen it twice in like less than 24 hours.
Yeah, my crowd, I went on Friday, so opening day technically, but it was in the middle of the afternoon, 2:00 or something. And it was, I don't know, probably about a third full. It was definitely the sort of thing where people didn't know how to react to the movie. Oftentimes, I would be laughing a little bit louder than most people, but obviously, this is the sort of movie that creates a very like uncomfortable atmosphere for most of it, and a lot of like awkward laughter can either erupt from it, or you can be completely horrified or not 100% sure if you're supposed to laugh a lot of the time.
Yeah, 100%. I thought the performances were strong in this. I thought the atmosphere was strong in this. Like I said, I was, even on the second watch, I was uncomfortable in a lot of it. I thought it was scary in a lot of it. We're like so back. We're so back. Blumhouse is back, baby. But yeah, I mean, kind of my real highlights, as I'm always listening, I thought a great score. I thought to me, it was like a perfect mix of It Follows and Sperm World. I was like, if they had a baby, this is what the score would sound like. And it was kind of funny because Exilia said the same thing when we were coming out of it. Like, it sounds like these two scores. And I was just like, yeah, it's kind of like if they intertwined, this is what it would sound like. And obviously love that. Like, I love a strong score, especially in like a debut, to really make your mark, because it's so easy to like punt on your score and just do something basic, or, you know, I don't want to, you know, say that orchestral's like, you know, obviously basic, but, you know, it's just like we could go safe. Like, oh, we're just going to do this typical horror, like I'm seeing Insidious or something, and I'm going to get these
and I mean,
strings.
It's very easy nowadays for all of your jump scares, or if you have really hard transitions in your movie, to always cut them on a violin screech or something like that. And I'm not going to say, obviously, this does have horror tropes throughout it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, and in the score and all this sort of stuff as well. But I do agree that it's this very moody, sort of surreal synth score that it's great.
But I mean, like I said, I obviously, from my fan of Bad Idea, like super excited that Cooper Tomlinson was in it. Because I was interested, not knowing whether, I didn't look ever at Letterboxd, like when they put it up for production or whatever, who was in it or anything like that. I played Colton in this one, where I was like, I'm trying to avoid everything I can, other than kind of like the first trailer they released. So I was very curious. I was like, oh, I wonder if, you know, his kind of comedy partner is going to be in this, what his role in. So I'm happy. I saw he's a producer. He's getting some checks from it, making sure Curry Barker, making sure everyone gets paid. And even some of the background people are regulars in the sketches. I noticed the girl that is in the kind of hippie shop when he first goes in to get the wish stick, like she's been featured in a couple of their like comedy stuff. So I was like, okay, there's like some familiar faces. I like seeing this guy work with who he wants to work with. But yeah, I don't know if I've seen any. It's weird because there's, like I said, this pulls so much from so many things that you've kind of seen everything in other movies, but I don't know if I've seen it pulled and blended so well together without it seeming like a cheap imitation.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Like, watching the movie, it feels familiar, because obviously we've all seen these sort of monkey's paw, be careful what you wish for sort of movies, but I've never seen it applied to romance, or I almost don't want to say a romantic relationship, because obviously it's the work of a wish, and you know, we can have a discussion at some point around consent and body autonomy and this sort of stuff. But in the world of the movie, they are framing it as kind of this fucked up rom-com for a good section of the movie. And this was one of those premises that when I was in the theater checking it out, I just thought it was so clever, and I was shocked that it wasn't done before. There's been recent horror releases like Companion that kind of played on this a little bit. Together leans into the codependence of, you know, an unhealthy relationship and how body horror, you know, clashes with that. But Obsession, it did feel novel and familiar at the same time. And for me, I think like the things that I just kind of have to point out, you've kind of already spoken to them, obviously, like the score and this vibe, this kind of like the visuals of the movie, but the performances all around are great. But Michael Johnston as Bear is a pretty perfect protagonist, I think, where even on a second watch, I don't know how truly malevolent he is. Obviously, there's a very specific scene with a very harsh cut out of a restaurant that very much reveals that he's fully knowledgeable of what is happening in the movie and obviously a complete villain. But in the beginning of the movie, I think he is playing it with a little bit of vulnerability there. And as an audience, you're not 100% sure if he knows that this wish affected the person that was kind of the object of his affection. So I thought he does a very good job. And obviously, Inde Navarrette is incredible as Nikki, or Creepy Nikki, whatever you want to call her. And the way that Curry Barker chooses to shoot her so much of the movie, kind of dimly lit, or just, you know, the slightest glint in her eyes, just kind of saying like there's something home, but we're not sure what it is, I think is some pretty incredible filmmaking. And I think she's going to have one hell of a career after this movie. It's not really a Scream Queen performance per se, but it is like such a singular performance that I think anybody who sees this movie cannot leave without discussing it. And she mentioned that she was inspired by some other great performances, obviously, like Toni Collette from Hereditary, which is funny because you mentioned about how a lot of the touchstones for these younger people, it's like Curry Barker's out here singing the praises of Midsummer, you know, and, you know, she's out here talking about Hereditary. And I'm like, yeah, you know, everyone has seen these movies. They're like 8-9 years old, you know, tops, right? So that was a lot of fun. But for me, just like as a movie, it's also this really mean, nasty horror that it does a really good job of balancing its tone. Like I said, it's genuinely funny at times, but it's genuinely creepy. It is mean-spirited. It has some crazy little moments in it that I don't know if many people would be expecting without people like us giving it some lip service. And I just think it's also feels very of kind of a younger demographic, like younger filmmakers kind of putting their stamp on something.
Yeah.
It feels of the times, like when someone says, oh, this was directed by a 25-year-old filmmaker, I'm like, oh yeah, this like completely tracks. It feels like it is. Not in a derogatory way per se, but in some ways of like how you misread young relationships, or you get obsessed with people, or even with like the filmmaking touchstones. It feels very modern, but also, you know, of kind of that generation. I will say when I was watching it this time, I think it may have been a theater issue because I don't remember this being an issue at TIFF, but it was very, very, very dark. Where there's parts in this movie where obviously I already mentioned that people are supposed to be obscured in shadow. And sometimes that is like a horror effect. Sometimes just that's literally the blocking of the scene to convey something. In my theater, there was moments where someone maybe, let's say, stood in the corner of a room and I couldn't see anything in the theater. It was, you know, you could see 1/3 of the screen essentially. So I think that's just an issue probably with my theater more so than
I feel
just
like
the
this is an
general
ongoing issue at that theater
It
you
is.
go to.
It is. And the thing is like I'm not always in the same theater. They do move them around, obviously, but I'm starting to think that just the St. John Cineplex has like half of its theaters need the bulb changed, or someone needs to adjust the brightness or contrast or something, because it's definitely a recurring issue. Either that or I got to get my eyes checked, one of the two. And then I will say that on a rewatch, it felt a little shaggy to me. This movie's an hour and 48 minutes, and don't get me wrong, I do love a lot of what it's doing. But like in the middle, I think sometimes it holds on some scenes a little bit longer than it needs to, or maybe repeats the same beat once or twice. And even if that's done with great intention for comedic purposes, or just kind of really hammer home, you know, someone's twisted state of mind, it's still the sort of thing where it's like, if you shave 10 minutes off this movie, just little cuts here and there throughout, I think it would really, you know, sing completely and just skip along a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean, I still really enjoyed this on a rewatch, and I think the hook, you know, how it's all set up, the opening scene's a lot of fun, and how we kind of come into the world of the One Wish Willow and how that affects everything. I thought it was all very well done. I mean, we'll definitely discuss it more in the spoiler-filled section.
I was going to say, too, I think it was kind of interesting and funny because both of my viewings of this in less than 24 hours very different because they actually switched the theater from yesterday till today. So the one I saw in yesterday was kind of like the generic, like it's kind of just the generic smallest theater size they have at my Cineplex. And then the one I saw today, they actually had it in the big one, like the biggest theater they had. So I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure how it works, but the screen does seem a lot bigger in the bigger one than the smaller one. So I was like, it's almost seeing it in a different light. And I found on the second watch, it was interesting because I found there's a lot of stuff I missed and a lot of like connections I missed, things in the background that maybe are like moving or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that the first time because I'm kind of searching the screen everywhere for what I should be looking at that first time. And well, I guess let me talk about the second showing today. There was only we went early, like 1 p.m. So there was only a couple of us in there. It wasn't really much. But I do want to talk about the first when I went yesterday night. And it was pretty decently packed. And it was one of those showings where like I kind of knew I was in something special. So basically we had a guy in front of me that pretty much like after kind of like one shocking scene, like, in the beginning, his mouth dropped and his hand went over his mouth and it literally was there for the rest of the movie. He just like didn't move it. And not only did I have him, I had commentary from two people sitting behind me that someone had brought their friend and their friend was like not impressed. Like they obviously didn't know this was like a horror movie, what kind of horror movie it was. They were petrified. Okay. And you could hear the friend like trying to calm them down and be like, oh, it's all right. It's all right. Like it's not going to get any worse. How much worse can it get? Mm-hmm. Then in front of me, there was two kids that were like obviously had snuck in, like had got a ticket to something else or finished something else. They were like probably the age of my daughter or younger. And all I thought about was I was like, these guys are like definitely probably going to be ruined for the rest of their lives. They definitely didn't know. But what I thought made it super special was there was a couple sitting down and this movie caused so much stress and fright that this woman had a full-blown panic attack and just started pacing the side aisle, like trying to calm down in the theater.
What on earth? Okay.
Like just walking up and down. She left for like a minute, came back, and she came back like when something scary was happening, then just continued pacing. The guy had to basically like coax her to just like sit back down and it'll be all right. God. And then to top it all off, when the movie ends, there was like I don't know, like 40, 50-year-old couple. And a woman just goes, that was fucking disgusting. I'm disgusted. And just walked off. And I said, we're here. Blumhouse, we made it.
For me, nothing that dramatic. I think there was one guy asleep for most of it, kind of snoring in the front row, who annoyed me whenever the movie got a bit quiet. But other than that, nothing really to report from my theater viewing. But yeah, would you recommend people go check this out in theaters? I mean, you went to see it twice in 24 hours.
100%, yeah. Go see it 3 times. See if you can see more than I can.
There you go.
100%. I thought it was a great time in the theater, even though people were having panic attacks. You know what? She'll appreciate it later on. To me, like that makes it a good horror movie. It did its job. So it seemed that the general vibe coming out of my theater is everyone was like, there was a buzz. I haven't felt a buzz like that in a long time coming out of a theater. So, yeah, highly recommend go see it in the theater. What about you?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely recommending people go check this one out in theaters as well. I think if you can go, the sooner the better. I'm already seeing, like, scenes crop up on social media or people kind of spoiling things all over the place. And also, it's just if you go sooner, you have a better shot of seeing it with, a larger audience. And this is the sort of movie that is more fun to watch with a vocal audience, for sure. Like the first time I saw it at the film festival where everybody was completely invested and, they were kind of more attuned of when to laugh and when to kind of like shriek. It was a lot of fun. So I'd recommend people go check it out. And plus, I mean, I just have to tell people to go and support Curry Barker's first feature in theaters. He does have another movie coming out soon. It's already filmed. It's in the editing process, called Anything But Ghosts, and it actually stars himself and Cooper Tomlinson as two like amateur ghost hunters that are scamming people essentially. So I'm definitely interested to see that. Can't wait to see where this guy's career goes. But yeah, go check it out in theaters. So it seems like both of us are recommending you check this one out in theaters, and with that, I think it's time to cut to the spoiler discussion for Obsession. We are now in our spoiler discussion for Obsession. So if you've not seen Obsession, it's time to tune out and come back once you've seen the movie, or keep listening if you simply don't care. Rowan, one aspect of this movie that I kind of forgot about going into it, I mean, obviously I was reminded of and remembered so many of the creepy Nikki sequences, but I didn't remember how much cat horror was in this movie. And as a cat lover, I was wondering how'd that cat horror play to you?
I mean, although, it does hurt my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
With any cat deaths going on, I thought this was so effective, and I think I like it because I know Curry Barker's got to be a cat guy, because there's a lot of like little cat clues in this. Like the company of the One Wish Willow is called like something cat, and it's like a cat logo. There's like some cat posters in the background,
cat clock on the wall,
and I'm like, so I know it's coming from a place of love, but I mean, I thought, what a way to get me enticed. Because, I mean, most people are like, this is serious business when you kill a kid. When you kill a cat, you've got my attention. And when you do it right away, essentially.
Yeah, let's kill the cat after essentially the opening scene of the movie. And not only just have a cat die, like let's say get hit off camera by a car or something, camera focused on it.
Yeah.
8 prescription medication, vomit, not shying away from cat death right away. And then... not only is there cat death, there's the desecration of the body with like the cat memorial, and then obviously the cat sandwich, which is probably one of the craziest scenes in this movie, where you're piecing everything together and it's disgusting.
All I can think about is when Sarah's like, when she first says, "What do you think of the cat?" And he's like, what? And then she's like, what does this mean? I just remember there's so many people on my screen. They were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I was just like, the shot of it. Oh my God. Curry's cooking. Curry is cooking.
Yeah. It's twisted, and the note on the front, what is it? To my little food critic?
To my little like food critic.
Yeah. With the heart. Yeah. Just devilish stuff there.
So it's so good. Like just stuff to make you kind of gag in your mouth and be like, oh my God. And the meat looks so disgusting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously starting to rot and, just been sitting there for days. It's
wild he
not
didn't
an appetizing
taste it,
sandwich.
to be honest. So.
He didn't seem that impressed by the sandwich, but he does go back for another bite or two. So I guess you're right. I mean,
maybe he likes
you'd almost
cat.
think that'd be instantly. Yeah, could be. I think a lot of this movie, I mean, I have a whole list of spoilers and little things to get to, but I think one of the first things I just kind of want to talk about is also the One Wish Willow idea. Kind of this being this reason that the whole movie kicks off, but I love the packaging. I love the idea of it. I love the little music that plays when you open the package. And also just kind of the simplicity of selling this world that someone can be controlled by a wish, but also not really getting into anything else and still having this like the customer support line and all these details. It creates a really fun, heightened world for this horror movie to exist in. And it kind of comes right back to the prop design and kind of that fabrication and creation of the One Wish Willow that I thought was so effective.
It's such a great kind of plot device. I love I love the store. Because I'm thinking, like, how many of these are on, like, Water Street in Newfoundland? Or used to
these
be,
weird
like,
little oddities and
they all sell
like
the exact same
store.
kind of stuff,
Yeah.
crystals and all this kind of hippie
Yeah.
head stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's kind of molded into more like the white girl wellness arena stuff.
The new age
Yeah.
movement.
And like just even from purchasing it, like that scene's so funny where she's like on the AirPod, actually on the phone. She doesn't really care. But like you said, this world created where she seems very aware that this actually works and doesn't really care. It's like, yeah, don't be one of those guys that comes in because something terrible happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, when we get introduced to the guy who obviously, you know, I'm kept wondering, I'm like, I wonder what his wish was, because he obviously used it and was like, yeah, it works. You know, was his wish just that he owned the shop or something? Maybe, I don't know.
He had the materialist wish of just being 6 inches taller.
Yes.
And that was about it.
Yeah. And then, the kind of helpline or whatever. And of course, you know, I love a director that wants to, you know, put themselves in the film a little bit.
Curry Barker himself doing the voice of the One Wish Willow customer support, which I think is a moment in this movie that makes it feel way more modern.
Yeah.
I think if this movie was made about 10 years ago, the vocal performance of the person on the customer support line would be completely different. But this reads as like a very disinterested, kind of bored teenager. And he's just kind of like sick of answering these questions.
But also like menacing at the same time.
A little bit, yeah, in the phrasing and the way it's being said. And then obviously the end of that scene with kind of getting a breakthrough to hear Nikki and the hell she's going through, all of her screams and cries for help. You know, it's a chilling scene that has Curry Barker kind of perfectly taking the audience on a ride from like comedy to a little bit of like, okay, this is kind of creepy, to like abject horror by the end of it, all just in a phone call.
Yeah, because his delivery is it's such Curry Barker, like deadpan voice that he does in like all of his comedy stuff. So that was one of those scenes where I like when he's first talking and stuff, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about all these like comedy sketches I've watched where he just sounds like this and he's like kind of disinterested, like kind of a jerk. And then as it becomes like more and more sinister, you're like, oh Jesus. And I also love that this movie not once has to be like, we need to show you where Nikki is, or like, we really need to explain to you where Nikki is, which very much so, I'm sure, is because Blumhouse comes in later. I'm like, if this was a full out Blumhouse production, we would see like, I don't know, some room of souls and Curry Barker in a devil costume or something. I don't know. Like,
we would have got something else for sure. I would hope it'd be a little bit more tasteful, like that one moment in Talk to Me, because that was made at a budget probably $2 to $3 million, and I've seen this reported at $750,000. So they don't have the budget to do weird hell flesh orgy, I don't think, on that budget. But yeah, I'm glad of the restraint that was shown in the scene, and like once again, just letting the performances sell it, and kind of just the whole setup of us all have experienced a customer support line and how shitty it is to be stuck on hold or having to call in. So I really like the performance by Curry himself, and then obviously how it devolves into that, you know, Nikki's horror. I guess like we should just talk about Nikki, right?
Yeah.
This is
Freaky Nikki.
Creepy Nikki, Freaky Nikki, whatever her little moniker is, that obviously it upsets her. I think she's so good in the beginning of this movie of establishing she's kind of like that cool girl in the friend group, that it's obvious like this kind of nerdy, quiet, incel-y sort of character would be the good guy that essentially believes that he should be dating her, or believes that, you know, oh, you know, I'm in the same league.
It really reminded me of Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Oh, really? Okay, I
was
haven't
just
seen
like
that since it first released,
like a very Michael Cera, like kind of quiet incel emo guy, and
I can see that. Yeah.
This girl that everyone is kind of like gravitates to. And
she's a bit of a manic pixie dream girl at the beginning of this movie. Not completely, because I do still think she's a little bit more believable and fits like within the friend group and in this world that's established. She's not like a Ramona Flowers or something from Scott Pilgrim, but She's so good at establishing who this girl is within the first, I don't know, 15 minutes of the movie, that when there is the sharp change from the effect of the One Wish Willow and just the initial interactions of her at the car and about how she feels to be fighting it, it seems like her speech is not slurred but kind of slowed down, and it's a very good performance of basically someone basically being locked in their own body right off the hop, and it's used to such horrifying effect throughout this movie that it's one of those things that it's like, man, this is creepy and messed up. And then at the same time, the movie throws in a falling in love montage with a nice song, you know, to watch as it's all playing out. And you're like, man, Curry, you're twisted.
Indy's performance as Nikki is so, I thought, just so well done and terrifying. Like you said, the kind of vocal changes, vocal speech. Obviously, we do get some stuff where he's definitely playing with like some voice code or something, like,
oh yeah,
where her, but he does it, Barker does it so well where like her voice will only distort for like milliseconds and then it'll come back, so you can really throughout the film feel that like tug and pull of whatever this kind of entity is and Nikki. And also just like the actual movement of the character, I was like, this is, I remember like in The Mouth of Madness, Jill talking about contortionists freaking her out. And I was like, no, this is what freaks me out, just because it was like so sporadic and so weird. Like it was just like walking backwards for no reason and then just stopping, or just like doing these very odd, very Pulse-esque like movements.
Yes.
And I was like, you know, we talked about in Pulse, this is like creepy because it's so weird, but you're just kind of being presented with this weird movement, straightforward, not looking away. There's nothing else going on really, so it's just like, it's so odd that it's scary, and I was terrified.
Yeah, it's very clearly like a force figuring out how to use the human form is what it feels like to me. And like the movement is very herky-jerky. It's almost stop motion at times, but then it also weirdly speed ramps unnaturally, where she moves really fast with like a vase of flowers for some reason, or you know, stuff like this, where it's perfectly used as these horror moments to kind of punctuate the horror of the situation that you've been watching. But of course, it's a horror movie, so when, you know, the lights dim and it becomes nighttime, we need to find something else to make it even more terrifying in the middle of the night. And I do like a lot of the physicality of this performance, and I do believe at that Q&A months ago, they did say a lot of this was achieved with Nikki herself, and then just obviously some careful cutting out frames and, you know, manipulation after the fact. But, you know, a lot of it was in camera from what I remember.
I was curious, like kind of the scene where you're talking about with the vase, and, you know, it's kind of when she first really starts doing the weird body movements, when she's kind of screaming in the corner still because she's watching them from the corner. I was curious, was there manipulation to that scene, or was it the dark playing tricks? Because I was like, it really does seem, even on the second viewing, I was like, that her face is almost like morphing into, like, you can see almost another person's face, like an older woman or something, like a middle-aged woman. Even seeing it a second time, I couldn't tell, is that just the dark corner like playing tricks on my eyes because it's so dimly lit I can barely see it, or is it actually like they've got, you know, someone else's face over hers and just kind of playing with the scenes? Yeah,
I didn't have a hope in hell of being able to see the specifics.
You were screwed
in my theater. I was lucky if I could see her sneakers or her socks, you know, like I definitely couldn't see that, but I have seen, I think, snippets of just screen caps, grabs of that scene, and I do think her face is distorted in some sort of way. I think it might be just the mouth is like wider, or eyes are bulging a little bit more. I think there is something going on, but I mean, there's moments in camera with Indy and just the way she's using her face of like the over hyper extended smile and holding that with her, like the really squinty eyes, which is a good joke of where she's like, is this better? And he's like, no, not at all. Like, no, it's worse. Like this terrifying. Or obviously what I'd almost call like the Florence Pugh sad face that she does at the what's it called, the party later on, that she has like the permanent, like perfectly drawn sad face on her face, that I absolutely loved as well. Just a very expressive face for this movie. Like, once again, just going back to Inde's performance.
I was gonna say, I do know I saw her talk about in the restaurant where she does like the freak out with the no. I saw she had talked about like the Get Out reference, that she was like the maid in Get Out. That's where, and it was interesting because when she was talking about what she had watched to kind of study the role or whatever, I'd be interested. I don't think anyone followed up with her, but it kind of seemed like it was her first time seeing any of these movies.
Oh, okay.
Because I know, like, she had talked about watching Hereditary and Get Out and The Invisible Man, and I think that was the three that she said that, like, Barker was like, you need to watch these.
Yeah, I think those are good touchstones. I could see how all of those kind of graft onto her performance are, like, important to this movie. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, just her freakouts are epic. Like, Mia Goth was the other one. She said Pearl was, he made her watch Pearl. And I think out of anything, that would make sense. Because to me, this is like this year's Mia Goth performance. I think this is going to be a breakout for her.
Yeah, I think so as well. The restaurant scene, I think that's a good place to kind of discuss maybe some of the more troubling aspects of this movie or disturbing aspects of this movie. Obviously, there's this idea of Nikki is stuck in a relationship that she has absolutely no consent or any ability to say no to. And obviously, in this early part of the movie, we're not sure how much Bear understands that this was the Willow. Was this a weird coincidence? Is Nikki having a drug trip? Is there, trauma with her father? Basically, he's not 100% sure. I think he's quite sure that it's the wish to be fair, but he has that reasonable deniability, I guess. But he still wants this all to be true, and obviously he's still a dirtbag. But I think this restaurant scene is where Curry Barker is very much selling like, no, this is a bad guy, and I think it's specifically with the cut that he chooses.
Yes.
So obviously in this scene, it's we get multiple revelations, right? We get a revelation of her dad not having cancer, but Nikki doesn't see why that's an issue because, they love each other and they have each other. And then there's also a phone call from Ian that I can't remember specifically what's revealed.
So Ian is the one that reveals the dad doesn't have cancer.
Oh, okay.
Because Ian calls the hospital the dad's supposed to be at. They don't know who he is. He calls the dad's work. He's been at work every day and is super healthy.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that was the one piece of information I didn't remember because it's been a couple of days. But yeah, it essentially starts this argument in the middle of the restaurant, and it's very obvious that Bear has pieced things together, but he's basically like, well, I don't care. And there's like a hard cut to him just full on like plowing Nikki in bed, and her face is turned and she's clearly not there, not enjoying it. Obviously using rape and sexual assault imagery to pretty horrific effect, and the music that's playing, and it's one of those cuts that if you were watching American Pie or something, it would be obviously, this is intentionally comedic and it's supposed to be hilarious. But in this movie, with all of this what has been set up prior to that hard cut from the restaurant, it's like absolutely horrific. And from that point on, I mean, I don't think anyone can really make a rational argument that Bear is, in the dark, right? We know that what he wants with this relationship, Curry Barker's putting it out there with his bare ass on display so we could all see it, you know?
It's kind of this brilliant turn where kind of everybody, like all the friend group, either have like secrets from one another or hiding something from one another. So like really almost other than Sarah, like everyone's kind of guilty of something, so that it sets it up that like these horrific and bad things can happen. And I think a part of you can be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, they kind of had it coming to them for doing these bad things. Because I mean, I thought what was also interesting with Nikki was, you know, I do agree with you. There's this sharp twist where like Bear, even though you're the whole movie, even after that turn, you're still following Bear as a protagonist.
Oh, it's all his point of view, and I mean,
but you're
yes,
like, okay,
obviously.
this guy's bad. But I think also some of the conversations that Ian and Sarah have with Bear, you almost get the vibe too that like pre-wish Nikki is like kind of fucking with them also.
Well, she might be leading him on a little bit,
but
or
leading him on.
like
But
that,
Ian also is kind of like, it seems in the realm that it's happened before, where like Ian's like, I think she's trying to get something from you. Like, she's fucking with you. Like, she's obviously trying to get something out of this. Obviously, he's in denial because he has feelings for Nikki, and that's, you know, why he doesn't want them to hook up. But there was like a couple sentences I noticed in the second time watching it where I was like, this kind of sounds like this might be like a pattern of Nikki's that they know as her friend, where they're like, oh, well, she might be doing this to like use something from you, but like we haven't figured out what yet. And then obviously when that turn happens, it doesn't really matter, because then he's just like this ultimate villain who, you know, I also understand they're probably wrapping in, you know, like when so much trauma happens to you, like you can excuse a lot of things because you're just trying to like block it out. And obviously he wants Nikki to be there. Even though, you know, later on we do get the scene where Nikki breaks through when the entity is sleeping and explains to him, like, you've never been with me. It's never been me. I'm stuck where I'm stuck.
And specifically, kill me.
Yes.
That,
kill me.
You know, just kill me. This is terrible. And basically Bear's response is something to the effect of, is it really that bad to be with me?
Yeah.
And then leaves her, right? Which, once again, is just damning this character of Bear to a terrible fate. I'm not saying that the character isn't sympathetic at points in the movie, or obviously the actor, I'll pull up his name again, Michael Johnston, he's playing him with this level of vulnerability and this level of awkwardness and this level of like social ignorance that I can understand how somebody like this would get themselves in this situation. So like on a human level, I understand this guy a little bit and not wanting to be alone and all this stuff. But it's like, yeah, of course, we're watching a horror movie and kind of reveling in the horror that we're seeing. It's just obviously that it has social implications. And there's definitely people that would watch this movie and just be like, yeah, man, bitches be crazy, you know, like
that's a wild take, but awesome.
Which I don't think that's what we're supposed to be taking away from the movie. Is basically what I'm saying. I think Curry Barker is pretty clear by the end of the movie that this was a absolutely horrific and traumatic experience, and you know that Nikki was a victim for the past at least hour and 35, hour and 40 minutes of this hour and 48 minute movie, you know. Some other little points I have here. The covering the door in duct tape.
Audible laughs, both screenings from everybody.
Yeah, just a crazy moment where, I don't know, she must have used a dozen rolls of duct tape at least. Just kind of trying to keep Bear at home. I thought that was great.
When he opens it too, all I could think about was the first episode of I Think You Can Leave Now, when he's like opening the door the wrong way and he's like drooling. Anyone that's seen the show knows what I'm talking about. It's like an iconic scene of that show.
Okay.
And he's pulling the door the wrong way, but he doesn't want the interviewees coming out to think he's stupid, so he's just pulling it as hard as he can and ripping the door open. That's all I can think about in this. Was him just being like, no, I got it.
Nikki, the horror, like her just standing there waiting for him to come home, not having control over her bodily functions, you know. The Foley, the sound design, when she's like, oh no, I'll go clean myself up. It just has like the nastiest squelching sounds as she's, you know, traipsing it all to the bathroom. Pretty gnarly sequence there. And the party scene afterwards with, you know, the drunk Jenga, big talk to me vibes for this
I did
scene
feel
for
talk
me.
to me, yeah.
Obviously we're all waiting for some sort of drama to break out between Bear and Sarah at this party. We're just not sure exactly what it's going to be because there's like the chair swapping and stuff like this. But I love the moment of, well, actually I love a couple of moments from it. I love the Hansel and Gretel story
That's
that
wild.
she tells. But it's so just insane, this incestuous, story of Hansel and Gretel and standing up at a party and just kind of doing this whole monologue. It's very, very bizarre. And then, of course, the moment of you have to kiss the person on your left, and she just comes over and drags Sarah in the seat back like 7 or 8 feet, and then props herself down next to Bear and just, puckers her lips. I just thought it was all played so well. We all knew what was going to happen. And then, of course, we didn't realize that she was going to start stabbing herself brutally in the face with a bottle, which is what brings me back to kind of the talk to me moment in that movie.
Yeah, and even on this, I was trying to pay attention, and I didn't notice anything because I was curious, like, because she does have that snap where she starts stabbing herself because Nikki does come back for a millisecond there. And I was trying to figure out, like, did someone say something or like, because of course then I was like, oh, maybe there's like a keyword or like there's something that snaps her.
She's a sleeper agent
in for a second. But it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it was just kind of 100% random. But that, like you said, that whole scene's great too because Barker doesn't do any like cuts or anything. Like all of that awkwardness you get to play out kind of in real time and sit in it. You get to sit after
he revels in it. Curry Barker loves that
loves
shit. Just
it.
once again, letting everything roll a little bit too long where it's a little bit awkward and it almost feels like the actors have run out of dialogue and it's just strange that we're still here. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it adds a little bit onto your runtime. But this is one of those scenes where, it absolutely works. When you mentioned Nikki snapping out of it, I forgot that a really effective jump scare early on in this movie before it's fully into the horror realm is when Nikki is trying to get Bear to get in the bed with her, and then she starts, climbs on top of him and starts like kissing him, and he's, obviously he's into it, but he's also kind of a little bit like, I don't know if I should be doing this at this point in time. And then he starts kissing her back and she snaps out of it and she's like kind of like, what the hell's going on? And she like flies backwards off the bed and she's obviously very upset. And then he's very clearly like feels like a rapist or something in the moment, and there's all this tension, and then all of a sudden she just goes back to it, like back to being creepy Nikki. That was a great little moment in the theater when I watched it this time that the audience kind of had a audible reaction to.
I hope you trademark this creepy Nikki. There's freaky Nikki and then creepy Nikki, and I love it.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember which one's
freaky
which, so
Nikki is the nickname that she doesn't like. But
okay.
I think you invented creepy Nikki, and I do like this. I hope that it is used from now on when discussing this movie. Creepy
the
Nikki.
Sequel series.
Yeah,
the sequel series. I mean, all that's kind of left that I have notes for is kind of the breaking into the third act, which I think specifically is where there's no really way to say it. It's the encounter with Sarah, Bear sneaking off in the middle of the night to go meet Sarah at like a place where she used to just kind of hang out, I guess, and they used to vibe. And, he goes there as a friend, and she's kind of like confessing her feelings a little bit for him and going to be reading her letter to see if she made it in the college. And of course, everybody, when they're watching this scene, they're like, where's Nikki?
Yeah.
We're looking through the windshield. We're looking through the windows
His
behind
shots
them.
are perfect to make you wonder.
There's so much negative space with the way like the passenger windows are framed with their heads and whatnot, where we're all just, where is Nikki? She's gonna burst in here in a moment, and boy, does she ever, with a brick in her hand, and then basically smashing the girl's head against the steering wheel, but also the brick in between her head and the steering wheel. And yeah, it just goes on for quite long. Very, very gory, very gratuitous, over the top.
Oh, this made it worth the price of admission. The effects are awesome in it. Like, it's practical, like 100% practical, because they do show, they show for the rest of the runtime, there is 2 or 3 shots of Sarah in, smashed in Sarah, I guess is what I'll call her. But this to me, this was like, I was like, okay, this is the Hereditary moment. Like, this is the losing your head moment of like
Charlie's head out the window.
Just pure shock and awe. And it did everything he wanted to. I'm telling you, people in my theater were just like, what the fuck? And horrified. And like I said, I just thought it was so brilliant because like we talked about with the other scenes where he's so good at letting it play out and be awkward. And he was really smart with the cuts in this because the cuts like almost get faster and you're like, okay, like, I feel like she's coming, but then you're waiting a little too long, but you're like, it's cutting back and forth now, like back and forth. Yeah. And you're like, is it coming on this side? Is it coming, like, what's going to...
Where is she coming from?
Yeah. And then, like I said, it's perfect. To me, it's perfect. And it'd be so easy for her to smash in and then her just smash her head on the steering wheel and, like, call it a day. But it's just that extra added of meanness of like, no, she's gonna have a brick in the other hand and she's not gonna hit her with the brick, she's just gonna hold it there and smash her face on it.
It's insane, and it's one of those things that was kind of put out in the trades that this movie initially by the MPAA got an NC-17, and apparently there was too many face smashes. So I saw it with the original face smash back in September, and I don't remember it being that many more face smashes. Like, this was still effective and horrific. Yeah. So even if he cut out 5 or 6 face smashes to avoid the NC-17, I still think this moment doesn't lose 1% of its effectiveness. Like, once again, audible reactions in the theater. I was horrified. You know, it's a great horror moment, and also just such a satisfying build-up as a horror audience after the past hour and 10 minutes probably of the movie at this point.
I mean, you should still build your campaign for release the face face smash cut.
The director's cut is 1 second longer than the original cut. And yeah, of course, this eventually leads to Bear going back to the weird kind of novelty store to find some more One Wish Willows. It has that one guy you were mentioning, the tall guy who had some sort of wish, but he's pretty nebulous about what it is. And Bear's completely panicked because the display isn't where it used to be, but it's even more prominent now, and he just missed it. Like, once again, some of this awkward humor and absurdity from Curry Barker that makes the movie, it's bleak, but it's contrasting with these comedic moments that makes it a little bit more fun. And I love this setup of basically being like, if I can get Ian to wish, basically to conflict with my wish and prevent this, then maybe, you know, this is a way out of it. I do think it's worth mentioning very briefly that Bear didn't really want the wish to be over. He wanted the wish to be modified. He still wanted him and Nikki to be together. You know, in that hotline conversation we mentioned, like, once he gets frustrated, he's like, sure, whatever, cancel it if you can. But he's still invested in wanting this relationship. He just wants it to be more normal, but he also still wants Nikki to have no agency over it. So I think Ian, Cooper Tomlinson's character, just basically being like, okay, yeah, whatever, man, I wish for $1 billion, and cracks it right away. It's such a shitty, like, low budget effect of someone just dumping money just off camera. You could tell, just falling in between them. But once again, it's like Cooper's face sells the moment of just being like, what the hell is happening? And then Bear being so dejected and broken and just basically really selling that all hope is lost.
I kept thinking that I was like, oh, maybe they're going to do a horror moment, because I was like, what if
the money crushes him?
Just crushes him and it just falls on him and so much it kills him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was expecting something like that too. But yeah, I mean, this leads into the final sequence of the movie, which I think is very effective, where Bear comes back. He has one more One Wish Willow left over. Sarah's body hasn't been disposed of, and instead it's stripped naked and on display. And now Nikki has kind of stolen some of her clothes and also kind of, you know, put fake tattoos on herself, or, you know, Sharpied, you know, Sarah's tattoos on her, and basically is just doing everything to try and make Bear love her, or as much as she loves him. And it's just this weird twisted relationship where Bear comes in and he's just completely like over this, and Ian comes in and gets his head blown off, and it's just, it's chaos here for a couple of minutes, and I think it leaves everybody on edge of what exactly is going to be happening here.
And she's got the shrine set up where it's like even like garbage that is obviously just like garbage from dates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is the right amount of chaos.
I can't remember the specific moment that prompts him to go into the bathroom. What specifically happens there? Because I know he gets the gun and he's gonna go shoot himself. But what?
She shoots Ian, and then she sits on his lap. He's on the couch. She sits on the lap, and then is basically like, "I'm gonna blow my brains out if you don't love me." And
okay.
Because she's going on about how, like, she wants to be beautiful for him and all this stuff. And, like, she puts the gun in her mouth and, like, up her chin. And that's when Ian comes in. And then she just randomly shoots him. And then he basically, like, gets the gun. And then it's like, I have to go to the bathroom. Hold on. And then runs to the bathroom.
Yeah, so he goes in the bathroom, and obviously he's debating over shooting himself, and Nikki's banging on the door and screaming hysterically. And, you know, it's just super intense scene. And crazy that a shot from this scene was used for the original image of the movie and kind of the marketing as well, because it's very, very bizarre to include this like as a prominent marketing image, but whatever. And Bear kind of shows that he still can't really put his mind to anything.
Yeah,
he can't do it. He's still a coward, right?
Yeah.
He still can't do it. Not that I'm saying that people should do this, but in the realm of this movie where it's built up to this point, he can't follow through with killing himself with the gun. He has to take the prescription meds and kind of slowly OD in the bathtub, just sitting there. And then, of course, we get the twist of Nikki's version of herself making the one wish Willow, which is clearly, or the one wish is clearly Bear to love her as much as she loves him. So he has the drugs in his system, but he kind of spruces back up and walks out, and they have this stupid moment of like staring at each other lovely. And
that's such a great shot and scene. They have like kind of rom-com, like romance music playing, and he's giving the smile and she's smiling. It's like this meet cute time. Mm-hmm. It plays so good.
And then of course the whole rug gets pulled out of it, and he dies and frees Nikki from the wish. And she has what I would call a pretty appropriate reaction to waking up and basically being like, there's this naked girl with her head bashed in. There's, you know, this guy's head's blown off over here. This guy's dead. I've been coming in and out of lucidity for the past, I don't know, month, maybe more. Who knows how much time has passed. And yeah, the movie just ends with her basically screaming her head off, more or less. Just, I don't know how she really gets out of this scenario. Clearly, she's going to be having a lot of therapy and
probably
a lot
going
of issues
to jail
for years to come. Probably going to jail. Yeah, I don't know how you talk your way out of it. And just an incredibly bleak, mean, terrible ending here for Nikki at the end of this movie.
And then like a true showsman, like, you know, ends it with, you know, an upside down shot and kicks it into like, I'm trying to look it up now. I can't even think it's like a 50s kind of
like an old ragtime number or something. It feels like, you know.
And it just, I thought it was like such a perfect kind of ending song where I was like, oh yeah, like it was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know what the song is, but yeah, it was definitely
a great song that's punctuated by screaming for probably a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
You know, just once again, absolutely horrific. Did you have any other notes here that you wanted to mention?
No.
I feel like I kind of ran through most of it.
We basically
probably
talked. This might be the most we've talked about a movie, like start
I think
to
we
finish.
just talked through basically all of the plot points more or less. There's probably a key little moments or some jokes or, you know, maybe some commentary or stuff that we've missed, but you know, there's other podcasts you can go listen to get some of that as well. So if you're new to the podcast, our review rubric is nay, okay, yay, or slay. So Rowan, what would you give Obsession?
This is getting such a hard slay. It's not even
really
crazy.
Wow.
I'm saying straight up, I like this better than I like Talk to Me. I like...
Wow.
My exact words when I got out of this, I basically... Exhilly wanted to see this, but she didn't even have a choice, really. I was like...
You made one wish after you left the theater to force Exilia to go see it.
I'm kidless this weekend, and I'm like, we have to see this. I said, this is like one of those movies that come around every couple of years, 10 years, that I was like, you're going to regret not seeing it in the theater, because it's going to be like a stone cold, like classic in 10 years. And my exact words to anyone that asked me how it was when I got out is I was literally vibrating. I've never felt like that coming out of a movie, that I was just like, yeah, Curry Barker now has me as like putty in his hands. Anything he wants to do. And normally I do my whole spiel like, oh, he's up on Peel level. He's up like, Craig or something. I'm going to tell you right now, I think this is a better debut than Get Out. And I think it's a better debut than Barbarian. Like, I think this puts him above both of them already.
Bold words. Holy shit.
I just think his eye is that good. I think just for a debut, I'm not saying like Peele's overall filmography.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But for a debut, I think it blows both of those out of the water. And, we didn't bring it up, but obviously he's been tapped for redoing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I couldn't think of anyone better to have this in their hands, simply because I think about, even though, he's given all the interviews that is like, oh, my favorite is the Texas Chainsaw remake, which is a great movie.
Platinum Dunes one. Yeah, the early
which
aughts.
makes sense. Yeah. He's young, but I see a lot of Tobe Hooper in him. Because Tobe Hooper was a very dark comedically with his stuff as well as horrific. And I think Curry Barker could really carry on that Hooper kind of original ideas and thoughts. And yeah, like this is so much a sleigh. It's rock hard. It's harder than a brick to the face, that's for sure. What about you, Colton?
Listen, I can't go that hard for it. This was one of those movies that when I saw it at TIFF, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was what I called the first great movie I saw at TIFF.
Yeah.
But I still have a couple reservations about it. Obviously, this movie right now, it's sitting at a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and audience. It's basically everyone's in agreement, it seems, on Obsession that this is an excellent movie. It's doing very well at the box office. And I mean, I'm not going to shy away from that. I do think this is a great movie. It's a movie that I'd give a very solid yay to. I think Curry Barker is another one of those up-and-coming horror directors that we need to watch. I really hope that, his next movie, I said what it was called. It's like, oh my God, No More Ghosts.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Anyways, his next movie that he follows this up with, I hope that he's just as accomplished in a lead role as he is in directing this, because originally this movie was flirted with him in the starring role, and he kind of made the decision to step back from it and find someone else to kind of portray Bear. And I think this movie would have been very different with Curry in the lead role. I think it would have been way creepier, way more messed up than it already is. So I think he made a good decision there. But this is still, what we get here is still a very effective horror movie. It's a great time at the theaters. Once again, if you can get past some of this troubling subject matter, of course. But I think Curry Barker does it all with a smirk on his face of that, yep, this is troubling, but also this is comedic. This is also horrific. And at the same time, great score, great performances. Inde Navarrette is going to be a household name in a couple of years, at least in horror circles. And at the end of the day, it's just a great horror movie that's mean and shows a very promising career ahead of him. So if you're not following us on our socials already, you can do so at It's Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky, TikTok. If there's a social media, we're probably there at It's Slays Podcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Mark, Steven, Dan, Brian, Trevor, OG James, Philip, and Mr. Ruby, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of the main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, we mentioned music a few times during the discussion of Obsession, in the score, and then also kind of this drop near the end. Is anything making the playlist?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to check it out. I haven't looked if it's up on Spotify yet or not, but if it is, I'm definitely going to give a listen to. This might be, going to the Rowan needs to grab the vinyl whenever it comes out, if it comes out. But you can see if I upload it by going to Spotify and looking up the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned, go into the bio, click the Linktree link, and there's a button that take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. We update it regularly, so follow it and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not?
And next time on the show, Rowan and I haven't really talked about this, but I think it's going to be Passenger. It seems to be getting a wide-scale horror release this upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those that has been marketed as the scariest horror movie of the year.
It's the trailer that when I took the daughter to see the new Scream, she didn't even make it to the movie because she got scared of that trailer and had to have mom pick her up because she got scared of it.
Wow. So I haven't seen the trailer yet. I don't know what it's about. I think it's like a hitchhiking movie or something. All I've seen, it kind of vaguely reminded me of that movie last year, It Ends.
It looks really like It Ends mixed with Dead End. It Slays classic review. So
okay, well, I guess we'll see this upcoming weekend. So, and with that, I think that about wraps things up for this episode. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.